Recently, DualShockers, a PlayStation-centric website, reported that gamers don't win with Microsoft's Activision Blizzard merger, and that, quote, Microsoft has gone too far this time. There is only one kind of fan that doesn't win, but some may not want to hear why. This is Colteastwood. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about an Activision and Blizzard article that shows the media bias against Xbox. If you end up enjoying this video, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell to be notified of new content, and let's talk about which gamers actually win from Xbox growing bigger. Microsoft and Xbox are close to closing the deal for Activision and Blizzard, a near $70 billion merger which will bring more games to the Xbox platform. But some in the media and fans are not liking this idea. DualShockers says, acquiring franchises such as Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Overwatch, Warcraft, Diablo, and more. However, many gamers stand to lose a good deal from this merger, close quote. No one stands to lose anything from the Activision Blizzard games being owned by Xbox except for one set of fans, PlayStation-only fans. PlayStation-only fans are mostly comprised of fanboys that only play on a PlayStation console. In fact, the worst kind are those that refuse to play on their decent or super mega rainbow-lit gaming PC in favor of only playing on a PS5. Activision Blizzard games will be available here in this graphic, whether rented from Game Pass or owned outright. Yes, you can buy games that are in Game Pass and played on these devices of your choosing. DualShockers then goes on to imply that Activision Blizzard games will be locked into the Game Pass service where you'll be forced to access them with a subscription fee. They say, even those of us using Microsoft's subscription service, Game Pass would inevitably bundle most of these games into the subscription fee with a significant delusion of competition and increased power for Microsoft. I don't want to get very conspiracy theory, but watch how they continually use the word Microsoft in the place of Xbox, something that some parts of the media, and especially fanboys, do not want to associate the gaming platform with the name Xbox, where the team Xbox has quite clearly marketed their games division as being Xbox. Now buckle up, because you're going to see some desperation from the side of DualShockers and some very harsh and difficult facts to look at, as the perception has been a major driver in what has been the friction against Xbox going through with a bigger growth with more games. This is how it actually works for Xbox. Selling games to own, allowing them to be shared across consoles and game sharing with Steam, renting them a la carte in Game Pass, and allowing cloud streaming, low-cost entry trials. DualShockers tries to posture Xbox as restricting, when in fact they are doing more to expand the world of gamers than Nintendo and PlayStation's name brand power and availability ever could. They say, quote, this acquisition will give the tech giant even greater sway in the market in a fashion similar to Disney's near monopoly in films, spelling nothing good for anyone who isn't at the top of the corporate food chain, close quote. Let's look at Disney. They bought out the Marvel and Star Wars licenses and have offered the lowest cost barrier of entry of streaming TV and movies with arguably some of the most desired content, funding additional franchises to be enjoyed more often with more shows and more TV and movies, rising to near 200 million subscribers, circulating the profits to create bigger and more content value to grow the Disney Plus platform. Yes, like Disney Plus, Activision Blizzard games could only be available on the Xbox platform, but Xbox has promised to keep the games where they are. In other words, Xbox has promised that PlayStation will continue to get Call of Duty for the next 10 years, something we've heard about for over a year and a half. And looking at the few remaining franchises from Activision and Blizzard, that only leaves Overwatch, Diablo, and Crash Bandicoot, and at this point, Overwatch will always be multiplat. We won't see another Diablo in another 10 years, and for the remainder of its life cycle, a game like Crash Bandicoot being exclusive to Xbox definitely wouldn't crack the world in half. They go on to say, quote, GameIndustry.biz, Microsoft and Activision are both in the top 10 biggest game companies by revenue, with this top 10 making up 65% of the market in 2021, close quote. DualShockers says, quote, as if it wasn't enough for the industry to already be so heavily concentrated, it is not. This merger would put a truly ridiculous amount of power in the palms of Microsoft, especially considering how they already own the biggest video game franchise of all time, Minecraft, as well as all of Bethesda, which owns properties like Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Doom, Arcane Studios, Starfield, and many more. Close quote. What a great buy, bringing in Bethesda and all of those great games. What a great investment that has been recirculated into Xbox Studios. Again, what are DualShockers or other media sites that are pushing against this merger truly worried about? Are they worried about Microsoft having so much financial power in the gaming segment that they would continue to buy more studios or publishers? Looking at this very popular pie graph of all of the game publishers that make up the world gaming community and industry, Microsoft, even right now, if they acquire Activision Blizzard, would still own a very small portion of the pie, not a heavily concentrated merger situation that DualShockers tries to present here. Or are they afraid that Microsoft and Xbox will take games away from PlayStation like they've done with Bethesda? Yes. Yes, they will. The Activision and Blizzard situation with games staying multiplat is an outlier, as regulators have crunched down hard on one of the biggest mergers ever, which will probably never be repeated by Xbox or even PlayStation. There is a true concern for growing the beast of Xbox with a snowball-like effect of buying big franchises, earning money to circulate into bigger games, and buying more franchises, but even Xbox is the most inclusive gaming platform and has offered to put their Game Pass service on Nintendo and PlayStation consoles, although PlayStation has heavily refused that to happen on the PlayStation consoles, meaning the only people locked away from Xbox games are the ones that don't even play video games. DualShockers then goes on to blame Disney for making so much subpar content. They say, quote, Disney has shown how the centralization can be bad for an industry. Due to diminished competition and furthered power, these entertainment oligarchs can easily flood the market with subpar content, such as what's happened with the excessive content turnout on Disney Plus in regard to their Marvel and Star Wars IPs, much of which has received a lukewarm reception, close quote. Meaning that they are worried that Xbox will make a bunch of mediocre games, which would be something that PlayStation fans would want to avoid anyway. See, you can't have it both ways. You can't claim that Xbox will make world-changing games that no one can have access to, and then be worried that those games will also be mediocre. Here's the fear-mongering at its worst, literally grasping for any excuse. Activision Blizzard has a dubious reputation when it comes to monetization in its games. Microsoft has released games like Rise, Son of Rome, and Forza 5, games that created the template for the landscape of the current AAA industry by helping normalize microtransactions in premium games near enough their infancy, close quote. This is an outright lie. Rise, Son of Rome was made by Crytek, third-party partnership with Xbox way back in 2013. Forza 5 was a game that came out as well in 2013 and had microtransactions, like all racing games do, it seems, in the industry. In fact, microtransactions have been something that have born and bred through EA and Activision and other big publishers. It is not a new thing. It definitely was not pioneered by Xbox, and it definitely was not something that Xbox led the market with. The business model to take a $70 game like Call of Duty and put it nearly for free on Game Pass bolsters the already massively popular microtransactions and incentivizes the optional extras for those that save $70, putting that money into the extras since they get the game for nearly for free. This is why Fortnite is so popular with its monetization and great free-to-play market system. But it's simply down to this. Microtransactions are so popular because millions of people are buying them every single day. In fact, PlayStation just had a major egregious microtransaction fallout with Gran Turismo 7 just last year, and their partner games are loaded with monetization. Unfortunately for PlayStation-only fans, most of their first-party exclusive games rarely have online competitive or cooperative experiences that would benefit from online monetization or microtransactions. But when a PlayStation game has an online feature, it definitely has microtransactions. So here again, DualShockers is projecting. DualShockers goes on to say, quote, Square Enix and PlayStation shows they're ultimately going to play the same game as Microsoft. Let's stop for a second. Here it is, the classic PlayStation fanboy or biased media projecting their defensiveness about Microsoft making acquisitions and mergers by saying it's going to be okay. PlayStation is going to make some big mergers too, and they'll be able to combat what Microsoft is doing, all while spending the whole entire first head of the article explaining that Microsoft shouldn't be making the said acquisition. They say, quote, yes, Microsoft started it with their aggressive acquisitions. Hold on, let's stop for a second again. Looking at PlayStation studios, over half of their studios and their teams have all been bought and paid for and acquired. Looking at the majority of the exclusives that have come out on the PlayStation consoles in the past 25 years, and they are money-hatted and paid for and not owned. I'm sorry, let me go on. They say, yes, Microsoft started it with their aggressive acquisitions in recent years. Sony's generally been a better nurturer of in-house talent, but Sony is certainly prepared to perpetuate it. Close quote. There you go. It's not okay for Xbox to do it, but dang it, we need Sony to step up to the plate and buy more studios than they already have. There is a lot to unpack here, as there is a massive bias in this statement. Let's first start with the easy one, and that's the claim that Xbox cannot nurture their in-house talent. This is something we've heard a lot, because if you look at a lot of Xbox exclusives, they seem to be very low rated or they didn't sell very well. Looking at this new generation on the Xbox Series consoles and PC, this infographic I put together shows that Xbox first-party output has been just behind PlayStation in amounts of releases, but the aggregate review scores for their games are a couple of points higher than even PlayStation. Xbox as an average review score is about 87%, while PlayStation's first-party games review at an 84%. By the end of 2023, this year, Xbox first party will have released 17 games, and PlayStation first party will have released 22 games. The perception that Xbox exclusives are mediocre or not properly managed is actually due to the old team, last generation at Xbox, with their third-party exclusives from studios and franchises they do not own, and they did a terrible job of managing those games. Think Quantum Break, Rise Son of Rome, and ReCore. Now, what's left to unpack is a really fun statement that is perpetuating exclusive agreements that PlayStation will continue to do. Instead of buying major publishers or massive studios, PlayStation is allegedly backing major franchises that have always released on Xbox platform and keeping them off the Xbox platform. In fact, right now, 11 congresspeople in the US are investigating a possible payment incentive that PlayStation is giving studios to make games and not make a version on the Xbox. DualShocker says, quote, as the game industry faces are carved up into fewer chunks. Despite already being a few chunks, this merger looks to cause more problems. Microsoft expanding their studio collection will have a huge effect on the industry. Likely for the worst, close quote. The sting of that statement. It hurts them so much, but here's my report. Wrong. PlayStation has been dominating the market, games ownership, and quelling competition with egregious money-hatting, restrictive business motions, and deceptive marketing, limiting even their own customers with stopgaps and compatibility across purchases of hardware and devices and games they've bought over the past couple of decades. Having Xbox become successful means that PlayStation will actually work harder to provide more value and more variety, like shooters, online competitive games, and better services across more devices within the PlayStation ecosystem. This is something PlayStation hopes to do anyway, but they've been pressured into speeding that process up for their customers and their fans because Xbox and their leadership are actually leading the market the way it's going to go. The Activision Blizzard merger is very good for gaming, the competition, and the market, but bad for PlayStation only fans, and they're the ones who don't win. This is Colteastwood. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I'm glad to be back making content, as I don't know if you heard, but I dislocated my shoulder because I think I'm young. I don't know what I'm thinking, but if you ended up enjoying this video, let me know by liking and subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell to be notified of new weekly content. If you want to further support the Colteastwood channel, you can do that by joining the channel membership button below by hitting the join, or you can join the Patreon, and there we have an X&C podcast group where we get together on Xbox Live and hang out and play games, but it also gets you entered into monthly merch giveaways like this Control Your Life shirt I designed, or it's just an item of your choosing if you win, and it gets you early access for videos hours or half a day before they go up. Also, the X&C podcast is something that's been going on. We're nearing 100 episodes. I've got a new co-host that's been around for a couple weeks, middle-aged game guy. We've been having a really good time. We're going to be bringing on guests to talk about what's happening with the merger, getting ready for the death of E3, and so much more with big showcases. But I want to know what you think about this article. Do you think that Xbox is an unstoppable force and PlayStation is doomed for the end of its days? Let me know in the comment section. I know you'll be there and there'll be lots of fighting, but please, as I always say, be nice.